I'm sure everyone else has also enjoyed it as much as I did. I think it is about time that we move on to the next piece, which is the panel discussion that we have. We are accompanied by two very eminent people. One is Mr. Sagar Gokhale, the CIO of Qyuki, and along with them would be Resha Jain, the VP at Sugar Cosmetics. Along with this session would be moderated by Mr. Mohit Rana again, who has been leading this entire study on the short form and its monetization. So I'm sure that we are all excited on how this is going to pan out. Welcome aboard, experts. Mohit, again, over to you.
Thanks, Jill. Hi, Sagar, Resha. Great meeting you again, and thank you very much for joining this webinar.
Hi, Mohit. Hi, Sagar.
Hi. Hi, Mohit. Hi, Resha.
Hi, so I think we have about, Jill, about 20 minutes for this, 20-25 minutes for the panel and Q&A?
Yes, that is about right.
All right, perfect. So Sagar is has been associated with the creator-influencer ecosystem for a long time, and perhaps knows more than anyone else in this space in India. And Resha has been a digital advertiser, promoting her products, experimenting with various platforms. And so again, thank you for joining us. Let me just ask Resha first. So how do you see video platforms? What role do you see them playing in your advertising budgets or overall advertising strategy? And what role where does short form fit into that picture right now?
Right. So, hi, Mohit. I heard and I saw your reports. So extremely, that was great, and I think you guys have done a lot of great work. Let me start with the advertising budgets. Look, we all know that a lot of video content being consumed today, and of course, there's been a big upsurge in consumption of video content, especially thanks to short form video content. Whether it's YouTube Shorts, whether it's Instagram Reels, or it's the short form platforms, people are really thronging there and consuming a lot of content through the day. So obviously a lot of money will soon start going towards that. But I don't see it as an advertising spend completely, like taking over advertising spends right now. Simply because those platforms have some way to go before they will give brands all the tools and transparency that is required to really take big calls in terms of advertising spend. But I think we are definitely spending on those platforms. We are trying to experiment and see whether we can find our relevant audience on that platform. We are trying to see how sticky is the content that is being created, how sticky is the experience of advertising for those platforms. So yes, there is budget being moved towards short form platforms, but is it a huge chunk of the entire budget that a company is spending? No, it's not. It's, in fact, even digital is not, because traditional TV is that expensive. So, but digital is huge, short form is small right now, more experimental.
Yeah, and we are still talking only about 10 to 20% by 20 is still a long way off. And digital advertising, you said even that is lower than other channels for you. You see that?
Lower than other channels. So traditional advertising takes a very big budget, like a big chunk of the budget. Having said that, our maximum numbers happen on digital, because digital is just that much cheaper to reach, to generate that kind of reach. So the reach constantly on digital is huge, but yes, spends are bigger on traditional media just because it costs that much more. I think there's no other reason.
Okay, great. So Sagar, what's your take on short form and the evolution of creator ecosystem?
Well, I'm a complete believer. We started believing in this space right in 2018, right? When TikTok was sort of kind of blowing up, and that's the time when we really engaged into this space and started working with a lot of creators. Right now, we work with close to 200 creators in this space, right? And we are very bullish about this form of consumption. right? Whether it is just from a consumption standpoint, where a lot of people are coming and consuming. Especially, I saw the report that you've done a fabulous job, and it's very clear out there that the new internet user is his first port of consuming content, because how easy it is going to be short form. It's not going to be longer formats of content, which takes a little bit time to understand. Here, the feed kind of gets personalized on its own. The whole dynamics is different, right? So obviously, short format is the way to go. How the algorithms work is the way to go. I think other things like advertising, like live commerce and gifting is just going to follow. I think it's going to take a little bit of time. I think what we've seen is really what has happened with Josh, Moj, all of these players coming in. There's an explosion that has happened, right? And you have a lot of users. You have to understand that this is short format is the only place where the ratio of the number of people creating content and viewing content is pretty alike, right? It's not like watching YouTube where millions of people are watching one creator. Here, the relationship between a creator and the consumer is pretty similar, because most of the consumers are wanting to be creators. So it's a very interesting place to sort of look at, right? That's why the explosion of numbers has happened, right? And this explosion of numbers, I think we all are trying to figure it out. Now, what does this map look like? Where does the advertiser kind of come in? How can we give him the most value from that product, right? And how do we give him the most reach? And let's be honest about it. Right now, we are talking about reach. We are not talking about engagement. We are not talking about conversions, right? At this point in time, as short form players, we are talking about reach. And I think we are doing a decent job to give brands a meaningful reach. And now the tougher questions start happening, saying, hey, what about engagement? Hey, what about conversion? Can we do something better? Can we drive more participation? And I think there is where this industry is going, but very, very bullish on it.
Yeah, great.
I agree with Sagar. That's exactly what he nailed it. It's reach right now and engagement. We're trying to see if there's engagement. If there's engagement, then there's slight stickiness in whatever the brand has done. Otherwise, it comes and goes, and it's like a sea of brands doing all of that every day. So if those two are what people are playing for, right?
Yeah, and awareness, driving awareness and even engagement, at least we see it as it's a great platform. You want to push something for tier 3 towns in India, want to make them aware of some product. It's such a great platform. I think how else would you do for the cost in particular, the price that you have to pay and for what you get out of that? I think it's a great platform. And in terms of creators, Sagar, you see creators evolving, looking at monetizing now and beyond, more directly versus just relying on the platforms to pay them based on number of followers and so on?
No, 100%. Creators are going to look at, so see, again, I would like to look at it from a time perspective. So first, early time perspective, you had entertainers coming from these platforms, right? So it was just either they were dancing or they were mimicking or they were cracking jokes. It was entertainment content, right? And obviously entertainment content really blew, and we saw some very big creators like Mr. Faiz, who's right now in Khatron Ke Khiladi, right? Those kind of things happened, right? They really became mainstream celebrities who really became big on these short format video apps, right? The second, now this is the time that we are in, and I think we see the entertainment stories kind of like been told, and you have your superstars and more will emerge, and that pipeline is pretty set. I think this is the next pipeline, which is going to be very, very interesting, where specialists are coming in, right? So you have people, those who really know stuff about beauty content, and they are really specialists. They don't have very large followings, 100K, 200K. We're not talking about 30 million, 40 million. You're talking about 100K, 200K. Somebody is a specialist in pet grooming. Somebody is a specialist in taking care of their plants, right? And these are the influencers that brands are going to really engage with, because they're going to give them a lot of value. And this is how brands will start communicating. So I think this is the chapter that we are in. We are in the chapter of experts, right? And I think once this kind of develops, so obviously these creators will not be able to just rely, because the volume of views that they're doing is not enough to just rely on a platform to pay them ad dollars. I think they will have to collaborate with interesting brands and sort of start working with them on long-term sort of product cycles. And I think beauty brands I've seen are really the first in this sort of framework to work with creators and work with creators across board. So it wouldn't be a surprise to me if a beauty brand sort of walked up to me and said, hey, you know what, I'm working with, close to 500 nano creators across the space, right? And which would be palatable. Maybe 3 years back, it was not. Now it would be, it's a normal strategy for a beauty brand.
And Resha, are organizations geared up to deal with these creators? Do they have the wherewithal to say, okay, I'll work with 1,000 creators for this particular launch? And how does it play out in organizations?
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I think I don't know. Is it me or I can't? I think you were pausing, like there was some sort of a network issue. Could you repeat that question once?
Yeah. Okay. The question was how are organizations gearing up for managing this influencer ecosystem and so forth? If you were to do a launch next month, do you have internally, are you prepared to say, okay, I will get 1,000 nano influencers and get them to push out some content for me?
So Mohit, actually since 2019, we have been working with influencers month on month multiple times. Right now we work with approximately 2,000 to 3,000 influencers every month. So that is of course divided between campaigns. So we have product launches, we have campaigns going on, we could have a lot of different things. We anyway have this whole edutainment sort of a content voice. And we are a startup. So when we started out doing a lot of influencer marketing in 2019, we didn't have the bucks to do it, right? So if I want to only work with the big ones, no way. So what do you do at that point in time? We started working with a lot of nano and micro influencers. Today we are associated with influencers we started working with, and I'm talking about Instagram because that was majorly what we were playing on and still do. We started working with influencers with less than 2K following, which are now 300, 400K, and still work with a brand in the same way. Of course, we also started getting the ability to pay them a lot better and retain them very, very well. Be able to, ultimately these are influencers. They are really useful in the beauty industry because the whole way is, what is the product? Is the product great? Why should you pick my product? What is the right way to apply the product? This is a beginner's market. So there's a lot of education that needs to happen. It's not the time of a coal and a lipstick anymore because that's what we've all learned growing up. So seriously, influencers have been a boon to Sugar, and I think a lot of Sugar's growth and content has really been on the back of influencers. I have a lot of respect for that community. Sagar is right. As these platforms grow and a lot of influencers, now we've said 55 million influencers and key opinion leaders across these categories. This is the next new boom which is going to give a lot of people livelihood, a lot of people recognition, a lot of people confidence, a lot of people a career, right? So brands have a big responsibility to play, and brands can really leverage this very well. The smarter brands will, and I personally think that we already are.
Okay, and what has been your experience with short form so far, and how have you, and what would you like to see more of them doing better than what you've seen so far?
Actually, short form has been a boon again. We work in content, In COVID, actually, like you said, it was a tailwind, right? Managed to propel content to a very different sort of consumption behavior model. What I mean is, with shorts, whether it's YouTube, whether it's Instagram Reels, and with the platforms wanting those things to perform for them, it was the right time for us to really get going on those platforms. With 2.2 million on Instagram, I think a lot of it happened because Reels started performing for us very, very well. And if you start understanding that and you start getting like lots of million plus Reels, you already have a platform where people are coming every day to consume content, right? So I think even with Shorts, even with Instagram, and now that we work with Moj, MX, Josh, working with Chingari, I feel like all these platforms have a lot to offer, but especially with brands, they have to become a lot more open with letting us directly work with creators. Some of them are, some of them still want us to go through to everyone through them. So I think this is just the beginning. Once the system matures, a lot of changes come, a lot of things are made easier. Like right now, I can advertise on Google and Meta in any way possible. And I think all these platforms will give me the opportunity. Because I don't want to go and give them somebody money and say, do this and give me some numbers that you are already promising me. What is the strategy then? I might as well go there, and only when I can put my own brains, understand your platform, understand what people are resonating in my sphere. That's when you create something which is magic, and great content which the brand is going to hopefully help the brand and not only get numbers. Numbers is only one part of the game. Brand building is a bigger one.
By the way, I couldn't agree more with your answer. I mean, some of the things that you spoke are so scalable, and I think as us also, that is the direction that we should be telling everybody to sort of move in. I think that was that last point that you made where, brands need to tell their own stories in a scalable fashion with platforms. I think there is where we all sort of, whatever noise we can make, that Indian platforms also reach there. I think it's bang on what you said, because that is where the real scale is going to come in.
Yeah, and I hope that now that at least the platforms have achieved big numbers, they have probably gone over one big hump in their product market fit and the growth. I think it'll take a bit to get to Google and Facebook level of evolution in their advertising engine, but that's the next area of investment where they need to focus on to drive output, get more transparency in what's really happening and how you can make it easier to work with 10 creators, 100 creators, 1,000 creators, and get something going out there. So, Jal, any Q&A do we need to take on at this stage?
I think Abhishek would be the right person to actually suggest if there are any interesting Q&As on the topic. I actually don't see a lot of direct questions just yet. There are a few. Abhishek, if you could just help us here.
Yeah, I see one question. What could spoil the party for the short-form video players at this point? What could be the challenges they could face for monetization? And how are the key opinion very different from nano influencers? I guess some of that is straightforward. It's more the scale of the key influencers versus the nano influencers. And that's a simple enough metric. But in terms of spoiling the party, I personally, I think till some next type of content emerges on internet, at least for next decade or so, I would think people are. So there was YouTube, which was there for 20 years or thereabout, still is there, and people want to watch video, they want to watch it in bite size. So I don't see it's going away. Of course, internet can surprise us, a new form of content could emerge in next 5-10 years, but for now I think short form is what's driving every single platform. Abhishek, anything you want to add to this?
Right, no, I think Mohit largely covered. I think not much to add from my side.
Okay. So Abhishek has been the manager, he's been leading the study and much closer to all the survey on the ground. And it's interesting how consistent message we are getting is actually people are watching more short form, they're spending more time every day, and more people are coming in. So it is just the, I think, beginning of the story, and we will see a few hundred more million people coming onto short form in India alone.
Mohit, the other day I remember discussing it with someone who actually went on stage and said the same thing later. But I remember it is the same across industries. People don't have as much patience, and this is like a culture shift which is happening. It's a behavior shift that is happening, and it happens across industries. We are becoming faster. There's tech powering everything in our lives. मेरे को मेरा पंखा भी remote से चलाना है. Like so at that point in time, it's just like T20 type का cricket ना, मतलब कि एक बार तुम्हें आदत लग गई, तुम्हें कम time लग रहा है एक story format को consume करने में. You want to hear the shorter stories, and once you have become used to that, I swear, I mean, when I watch OTT, I skip parts by doing 10 second again, which is me. I mean, I want to save my time and watch more. I feel like I can do that. I'm sure it's hurting some other aspect of me in some way, I'm getting more impatient. I want quicker gratification. Long term में लेकिन कौन long term सोच रहे हैं ना? Content consumption तो obviously नहीं सोच रहे if they're spending so much time on short form platforms. Yesterday I heard the craziest thing. There was a short form platform pitching to us, and they said people spend 5 hours 26 minutes on my platform. I said, wait a second. People manage to watch TV because TV people take a lot of money saying TV. Then people manage to watch OTT, Netflix देखेंगे, फिर Amazon Prime देखेंगे, फिर Hotstar देखेंगे, फिर कुछ और देखेंगे. फिर वो आपके प्लेटफॉर्म पे 5 घंटे 26 मिनट हैं. फिर वो किसी और प्लेटफॉर्म पे 38 minutes, 40 minutes, 50 minutes depending. People apparently do nothing but watch content, but I don't think so. I think
टीवी के सामने टीवी के सामने बैठ के watching short form is a common occurrence. I think that I've seen it happening physically, so that type of behavior happened. And yeah, another point, just I think I missed highlighting in the report, and it was saying the thing grows, this whole thing, exponential curves as they rise, and we saw in China 3 billion to 300 billion in 4 years. I mean, how do you even manage to get so many people talking about video commerce, getting companies on board, ship it out? But that's China. But yeah, when you talk about 10-15 billion dollar of video commerce, I mean, think about Indian e-commerce industry will be about 250 billion plus by 2030. And right now sitting, we look at 30-40 billion, they look like, okay, big numbers. But in 250 billion, getting 10 billion on video commerce, that's what, a 3-4% happening out there on short form, and total market of maybe 7-8% happening through total video commerce. It's nothing. And that's why people, hello, have I frozen or no?
No, you're there.
I'm there. Okay.
Oh yeah, just
so one has to have context that once we start pushing revenues and monetization, you may not see much happening. You will see failed experiments and so forth happening for next 1 year. But once they get the product, market, consumer, all of that fit going, it just goes up much faster than we can plan for in some ways.
True. I mean, it is remarkable, right? I mean, such a short thing. It's like saying small is the new big, I suppose.
So Sagar, in terms of creators, do you see, but the creator ecosystem, there are these 50 million, but eventually perhaps people who are making money is probably tens of thousands who are seeing any dollar. How do you see that impacting the whole evolution of this?
Like I said, right? See, this is really an employment opportunity, right? I mean, and I don't want to sound completely wrong, but 20 years, 30 years back, when people said they were doing an IT job, most of the people didn't understand what that job was, right? Today, when people say, hey, I'm an influencer, most of the people don't understand what that job is. But I think this is going to provide real employment for people, right? And I think it's about, like, this is what I say, it's for brands also, it's about building communities. They're not really engaging with influencers, they're engaging with communities, they're engaging with people, those who have access to more people, right? So if you can build your own community, even if it's 100 people, does not matter, right? And if you recommend something which can go out and be purchased, I think you have solved that problem for a brand. And if you have solved that problem for a brand will be willing to engage with you, right? And I'm really saying, if you can sell one product, you're very valuable for the brand, right? So this is what we are looking for. I mean, see, obviously at this point in time, your brands are talking to people with 10 million influencers and 20 million followers. That is what brands would like to do, because these are scaled conversations. They don't want to go that deep. But 3 to 4 years down, and how Resha was saying, right? She works with 2,000 influencers. Now, this is a brand which is really on the clip on influencer marketing. Not all brands think like this, right? More and more brands will start thinking like this, and they will start engaging with much smaller creators to achieve their smaller targets, right? And that will form a part of employment, right? You just need to be good at something. You need to put that content out there, and you need to form a community. That's the 3-step guide, right? And money will follow. Right now it's going to big influencers. As the market grows, obviously the money is going to come down, and I don't think there is any two ways about it.
Yeah, and somehow kind of a Meesho-like model, and I'm just fantasizing here perhaps, but a Meesho-like model where even someone with a 500 followers can find a way to push some
100%.
economically useful or rewarding activity through that.
100%.
Product, be it whatever, and if you can find to how we can scale it up and get a supply chain fixed for all of that.
So what I've seen with smaller influencers, right? And since your question was about that, what I've seen with some smaller influencers is much better to push. Like, you're not selling a brand story there, but you're really selling either a very clear offer, right? Which is date time, right? That, hey, I have got this offer for you, and use my code, and it's valid for 24 hours, create that urgency, sort of make people shop for that, or go for that experience, register for a class or whatever. Or it could be experience. When I say experience, what is it to open a box of cosmetics? What does it feel like? What is the unboxing looking like? Those are the ways you would engage with these creators. You're not really doing brand building, storytelling over here. You're doing very experiential, very targeted, offer-based sort of content, and that really works and that really scales. I don't know. I mean, you are the expert on this, so I would sort of take your...
No, Sagar, you actually nailed it. This is exactly what we did. I'll give you an example of something we really did, because I think that decodes everything, otherwise. I remember this campaign on merch that we did, and forget about the promise numbers. It went viral for them as well, because I think anything over there is already viral. I come from the age of Instagram and Facebook, those numbers are crazy, right? So it went to 7.7 billion. Now take that away for what was really good, and I think where we thought that at least whatever the numbers, we were winning. It was a virtual try-on. People were actually experiencing the different colors that we have. They could actually have different shades of eyeliner, and they could play around with it, So ultimately, you're getting to do a lot of experimentation. If you are a woman, it is so engaging, and everybody wants to do that, wants to check out how this pink looks on you versus how this brown looks on you versus how this red looks on you. Now, this is an experience that as a brand, I know that whatever the number is, the people who tried it on will remember it. Probably will remember sugar when they want to buy the next red they want to buy. That's the max I can do. Right now, if I want to do a conversion whole funnel cycle over here, very difficult to get people to believe a short form platform, get so enticed by an offer or a color or a product that they immediately come, they land, there's traffic. So there's a whole thing with whether we can get quality traffic. Most of the time conversion rates fall on the site because it's not converting the same way. And that is probably not the way to use it right now. I mean, especially with short form platform, I think like he said, engage them, make them see some experience the brand in some way, remember it in a meaningful manner. That is a win in itself, because we are all looking at finding enough eyeballs and introducing your brand to a lot of people in a wholesome way, which I think these short form platforms provide a great avenue to.
Abhishek, any Q&A which is you might have seen, anything to highlight?
Right. So I think there's a specific question around what kind of KPIs are platforms offering to measure effectiveness. So I think as of now, what we're seeing is Indian platform from an ad offering point of view sort of really maturing. So I think essentially if we can look at an ad point of view, there are three objectives. One is just to increase awareness. Second is to just sort of drive traffic. And third is on how to drive conversions. I think at least on the first two, increasing awareness and driving traffic, we're seeing sort of significant traction happening from the platforms. I think it's the conversion bit where I think we're sort of slightly trailing behind some of the global platforms, but I think we expect from the supply side enough innovation happening, which is sort of then and essentially sort of, let's say, the whole sort of ecosystem developing, how to integrate payment gateway within the app, how to integrate the overall sort of browsing within the app. So on the ad point of view, so a fair bit of, let's say, KPIs are being offered, mostly around how much audience are we able to reach and what kind of traffic we're able to drive. I think it's the conversions bit. I think that's where we're lagging, and I think with as sort of live commerce matures, I think that's where also we can start these platforms mature on that front. So maybe sort of possibly taking some share from e-commerce of the total ad pie that's happening.
yeah, these platforms are less than 2-year-old. I think we should recognize the app was launched less than 2 years back almost. So just I think need to give them a bit of a rope for setting in place all these things while managing their 100 million daily active user or whatever that number is. It's all trying to fix and improve a running train. And but I do feel next 1 year we expect a lot of progress on all of these fronts. All right, Jal, we are kind of end of our time. We have a couple of minutes left. Anything else we should talk about?
No. I think it has been very interesting. I mean, right from the first where we had our eyes open saying, okay, there is this whole different world apart from just,
Jal, your voice is
there's a whole business to it. So that was interesting. And the discussion itself was, am I lagging? Is it for everyone?
Yeah, you are lagging for me. Yeah, you are.
Apologies for it. I think, but I basically, I was just highlighting that, me and almost everyone in the audience all behind those thumb scrolls that we are going through. So thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Sagar. Thank you, Resha as well. Thank you, Mohit. Thank you, Abhishek. It has been a pleasure having you all.